Namaste, Mithram. I've been reflecting on your theory that all suffering stems from one's inability to come to terms with a situation. I can see how this might apply in some cases, but is it really true for all kinds of suffering? What about those situations where suffering seems unavoidable or inherent to the human condition?
That's an excellent question, Shankar. Let me first clarify my stance. Yes, I do stand by the idea that a significant portion of suffering arises from our inability to accept a situation as it is. However, I fully acknowledge that certain sufferings are inevitable and an essential part of human existence. These might include physical pain, loss, or even the challenges that come with aging or illness. But when suffering does arise, the critical point is the ability to temporarily come to terms with it. Let me explain further.
Are you saying that even physical or emotional pain can be alleviated just by accepting it?
Exactly. You see, when you acknowledge suffering, be it physical pain, emotional distress, or psychological turmoil, by saying, yes, I am in pain, or yes, this situation is difficult, you're essentially taking the first step towards rational thinking. When we accept the reality of what's happening, we free ourselves from the emotional turmoil of resistance. This enables us to think more clearly and use our intelligence to navigate the situation and find a solution. It's about understanding the reality of the moment before deciding how to move forward.
So, are you suggesting that once we accept our suffering, it automatically diminishes?
Not exactly. Acceptance doesn't mean that the suffering disappears immediately. It is a temporary process of mentally disengaging from the emotional attachment to that pain. For example, let's say I'm hungry and I don't have the resources to get food. If I start cursing God or others for my predicament, I'm making my suffering worse. But if I accept the hunger, acknowledging it without anger or frustration, I can think rationally. I'm hungry. What can I do about it? How can I solve this? This kind of thought process is what helps bring us out of suffering.
I see. So, you're not saying we should just accept suffering and do nothing about it. You're saying that acceptance is the first step to rational thought, which then leads to action.
Precisely. Let me give you another example. If I were to fall and break my bones, the physical pain would be inevitable. There's no denying it. But I must accept that pain is present at that moment. The suffering arises when I resist it, when I focus on how much I don't want it. The moment I say, yes, this is painful and I need to deal with it, I can then use my mind to think clearly. How can I reduce the pain? How can I heal? This mental shift is what makes all the difference.
But what about psychological suffering, such as the kind caused by trauma or mental health issues? Isn't that more complex?
Absolutely, Shankar. Psychological and medical conditions are more complex. People with mental health conditions or disabilities need to seek appropriate help. However, my focus here is on individuals who are mentally well but still suffer because they can't accept certain aspects of their reality. For example, when someone experiences disappointment or frustration due to unmet expectations, their suffering often stems from not being able to come to terms with the situation. In these cases, acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It simply means acknowledging the truth of the moment and choosing to move forward from there.
So, you're saying that even systemic issues like poverty, violence, or discrimination can be managed in the same way?
Yes, systemic and structural issues are incredibly complex and require more than just personal acceptance. These issues often need collective action and long-term solutions. However, even in these situations, the individual's mental response is important. If you don't accept that you're in a difficult situation, you remain stuck in the suffering. The first step in solving any problem, no matter how serious or how large, is to accept the situation, acknowledge the suffering, and then ask, what next? Or what do I do now? This process frees you from the emotional trap of the situation that usually leads to the poor me, why me, or the why is God testing me state of mind, and opens the door to intelligent, rational problem solving.
That brings me to the idea of empathy and social support. You mentioned that social support is crucial. How does that fit in with your theory of acceptance?
Great question, Shankar. Empathy and social support are essential because they help guide you through the acceptance process. When you are in distress, the comforting words and understanding from friends and family help you come to terms with your situation temporarily. They don't straight away solve your predicament, do they? Although your problem is not solved immediately, it allows you to pause, accept the reality, and then think about what steps you can take to move forward. Social support provides the emotional foundation, which in turn helps you disconnect from the immediate suffering and focus on finding a solution.
So, in a way, it's about using empathy to help people accept their suffering so they can think clearly?
Yes, exactly. Empathy helps people understand and accept their reality. When individuals receive empathy, they are less likely to remain trapped in emotional reactions. Instead, they can step back, acknowledge the pain or difficulty, and move forward with a more rational, solution-oriented mindset. It's about recognizing this is what is happening right now. I will accept it for what it is, and now I will find a way to solve it. However, it's important to note that words of sympathy from loved ones can have a drug-like effect, making a person dependent on them for temporary solace. This can actually prevent them from seeing empathy as an opportunity to think differently, more neutrally, and to devise strategies to face and handle their challenges.
You also mentioned existentialism earlier. How do you view that in relation to your own theory?
Yes. I find the existentialist view of suffering quite flawed. Existentialism suggests that suffering is an inherent part of human condition. But I argue that much of our suffering stems from our attachment to the body and mind, expectations of how we think our lives should be, and the frustration that arises when things don't go as we expect. In Vedanta, we teach that the true self is not the body or the mind. The true I is beyond both, and so the more we disconnect from identifying with the body and mind, the less we suffer. When we realize this, we begin to see that suffering is not inevitable. It is often the result of our attachment to certain expectations.
That makes sense. So, suffering doesn't have to be an inherent part of the human condition, but rather a result of our attachment to things.
Exactly. The more we understand that our true identity is not bound to the physical body or to the mind, the less we suffer. Let me give you a personal example. Many years ago, I had a severe accident and my right arm was at risk of amputation. I endured excruciating pain for 2 weeks as they performed incisions and drainage on my shoulder daily. I managed this by mentally disconnecting my sensory nerves from my brain. This didn't mean the pain went away, but it meant that I didn't identify with it. I knew I was in excruciating pain, but I wasn't bothered by it. This allowed me to focus on the solution to save my right arm, survive potential complications, and recover.
That's incredible, Mithram. So, by disconnecting from the pain, at least mentally, you were able to endure it and think more clearly.
Yes, Shankar. By accepting the pain and mentally detaching from it, I freed myself from the emotional reaction that would have made it unbearable. This mental detachment allowed me to deal with the situation rationally and find a solution. This is the core of my theory. Suffering arises when we are unable to come to terms with a certain situation. Once we accept it, even temporarily, we are empowered to solve the problem and reduce our suffering.
So, acceptance isn't resignation. It's the first step towards rational action?
Exactly. Acceptance allows us to step out of the emotional turmoil caused by a problem, think clearly, and act wisely. It's the key to solving any problem, no matter how difficult. By understanding the true nature of suffering, we empower ourselves to transcend it.
This perspective is profoundly enlightening, Mithram. It changes the way I view my challenges and suffering. But what about the ultimate goal of this practice? How does it fit into the broader spiritual journey?
Shankar, this brings us to the essence of Vedanta. The ultimate goal is self-realization, understanding that our true nature is beyond the transient experiences of the body and mind. When we practice acceptance, we gradually detach from the illusions of the material world and move closer to recognizing our true self. This self is eternal, unchanging, and blissful. By realizing this, we transcend all suffering because we no longer identify with the temporary and the fleeting.
So, acceptance is not just a tool for dealing with day-to-day suffering, but a step towards ultimate liberation.
Precisely. It is a practice that purifies the mind, allowing it to become still and reflective. In this state, the mind can perceive the truth of our being. This journey from acceptance of the external to the realization of the internal truth is the path to moksha or liberation. It is a path to realizing our oneness with the universal consciousness, which is free from all dualities and sufferings.
This is truly enlightening, Mithram. It provides a profound perspective on how we can handle life's challenges while also moving towards a higher spiritual goal. It seems that this practice of acceptance is a bridge between our day-to-day struggles and our ultimate spiritual journey.
That's correct, Shankar. Acceptance is both a practical tool for dealing with everyday issues and a spiritual practice that guides us towards self-realization, which on the path of Vedanta is the highest goal. When we start by accepting our current situation, we enable ourselves to think clearly and act wisely. Over time, this practice deepens our understanding of the self and the nature of reality. We begin to see that our true self is beyond all suffering and beyond all dualities.
So, in essence, the practice of acceptance can lead to inner peace and ultimate freedom from suffering?
Yes, that is the ultimate goal. Inner peace and freedom from suffering come from recognizing that our true self is not bound by temporary experiences of the body and mind. By accepting the present moment as it is, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and open the door to deeper understanding and spiritual growth. Remember, acceptance is not about giving up. It's about seeing things as they truly are and then choosing to act from a place of wisdom and clarity.
Thank you, Mithram. This conversation has given me a new way to approach my challenges and a deeper understanding of my spiritual path. I feel more empowered to face life's difficulties with acceptance and rationality.
You're most welcome, Shankar. Always remember, the journey of acceptance and self-realization is a continuous process. Keep practicing and you will find that your ability to handle suffering and your understanding of your true self will grow stronger over time. Stay committed to your path and you will experience the profound peace and freedom that comes from realizing your true nature.
I will, Mithram. Thank you for your guidance and wisdom. I am truly grateful. Thank you once again, Mithram.
It's my pleasure, Shankar. May your journey be filled with insight, peace, and the light of true understanding. Stay blessed. Jai Shri Krishna.